Ready? Oh wait, I don't think my phone's on silent. I think I forgot to do that. And we're live. It's too late now. It's too late now. Now the phone's gonna be loud forever. No.
We're not live on my end yet. It
we're
has
live.
Traveled.
Yeah, you don't get the internet yet. I get it first.
Live. What?
That's like
it's live now.
That's the theme of the internet. It's like the internet. Ron first, Tina
Ron
second.
First. Yeah, it's misogynistic. That's all I'm going with.
It is. The internet is upholding the patriarchy big time.
That was a total wine mom comment. All right. It's holiday season. Today is like the 22nd of December. My goodness. I can't believe how time has gone by this year.
Smash the like button. Don't forget and smash it. Don't just push it. Right. Pushing it is so 1999, but smashing it, that's 2023. And we're looking into the future. I'm Ron Placone.
And I'm Tina-Desiree Berg, and we are here on Status Coup to bring you some breaking news today, some interesting stories. The right-wing insanity report will follow. I spoke with Abner Hauge from Left Coast Right-Wing Watch. He's been all week in Arizona covering the Charlie Kirk TPUSA convention. So he called us from his hotel this morning, walked us through some of the stuff, like some crazy stuff going on there. That's all I'm going to say.
I love the graphics for Right Wing Insanity Report. Like, it looks like it honestly looks like Trump and Bannon and Tucker Carlson are like asking you something really messed up, and you're like saying no. You know what I mean? 100%. Like it looks like they're being like, "Can we have your dirty socks?" And you're like, "Wow, you guys are creepy." No, you know what I mean? Like, that's kind of what it looks like.
That would be really creepy.
They're just being real creepy.
Brand. Also on brand. Let's be honest.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying.
I know. Colin did a good one on that one. It's pretty funny.
Good job, Colin. Right. Give it up for Cat Airs Colin on the ones and twos. That's his new nickname.
You know, please, Colin does so much work. Please give it up for him. He is the man that is behind everything, whether it's producing the live stream, editing things, helping with tech issues, the whole nine. So, Colin, we could not function without you.
Word. So,
Happy Meals.
Let's get to it. We got some stories concerning McDonald's, some stories concerning reporters that are literally like getting paid from lobbyists. Instead of having a little middleman that is for-profit news, that they just go directly.
They just go directly to the line. It's quite the side hustle, and it's wild how many examples of this there are recently. This crosses every ethical boundary like that you would ever be taught in journalism. Is shocking to me that, and one of these reporters is at ABC, so it's kind of crazy.
So we're going to take a deep dive. Yeah, we're going to lean into that, and then
he's the fourth fixer-upper.
The fourth fixer-upper. Yeah, I mean, well,
they're definitely not the fourth estate.
Yeah. Well, haven't we moved on? Like it's like the fifth estate now. What was that like? Because that was like in reference, or the fifth estate is like whistleblowers.
Yeah. So the fourth estate is supposed to be public service journalism, right? The fourth estate.
Yeah.
But public service journalism is really gone by the wayside. There are still organizations that do it, but it's tough. You know, it's like since we changed all the laws, making what I call newsertainment, you know, lifting that veil for corporate influence and other, you know, big money influence in news industry, it's changed quite a bit of things. There's no fairness doctrine anymore. Everything is allowed to have a bias. And, you know, some people, you know, here's the thing though, having a bias, isn't necessarily terrible if you're honest about what that is and you have a commitment to veracity.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. But when you're not being transparent about what you think, like, for example, if you're taking money from a corporate lobbyist and presenting yourself as an unbiased journalist from ABC, there's a problem there, right? That's not the same thing that we're talking about, right? So you can report something from whatever perspective and be honest about that, as long as you're honest about the facts and you don't distort that or hide things or lie about what was said. But we've kind of passed that at this point. And it's really frustrating for me because, you know, when you've got all these QAnon people going fake news, there's a seed of truth to that. Now, of course, their brand of fake news is the fakest of the fake news, but, you know, don't let them hold them back and calling out the problem.
Well, it's like when you think about things like objectivity and stuff like that, I mean, back in the day in this country, when it was normal for like an average metropolitan area to have like 10 different newspapers, and
Right.
it was like well funded because it was all subsidized via the postal service because they actually did believe in the exchange of information and ideas. They saw that as being important. I would say is actually one of the things that this country got right at one point in time. We don't get it right anymore, but like back in the day,
Yeah,
we actually
I
did get
agree.
it right. So you had like socialist newspapers and federalist newspapers, and you knew you were reading a socialist newspaper or a federalist newspaper or even a communist newspaper. And that was all well and good. And people would kind of like look at these different perspectives and kind of frame their own analysis on
Right.
things. Well, now that's all gone, and it's just replaced by a handful of corporations controlling everything. And their perspective goes from the corporate right agenda to the corporate
left.
agenda that's slightly less
Yeah,
polite.
exactly. No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Because there used to be an embarrassment attached to being a journalist and doing that kind of thing, right? You would feel shame, like you would get haggled by your peers, whatever. But a lot of that's disappeared. It's really unfortunate. Now it's become like a grifty universe in which I'll say whatever you want me to say for enough money, which is tragic.
Is my before we get into the first story though, is my audio okay? Because someone
It
in
was
the
cutting out
comments.
for a second there, a little wonky, but yeah, I hear you okay right now. It was wonky
It's
for a hot
okay.
second.
It's not okay. I had a loose cable, so I want to make sure. That could have just been like an internet burp or something. But all right. Well, Colin, holler at me if something goes haywire. But yeah, let's jump in here. So
Okay.
McDonald's, folks. When McDonald's isn't busy violating child labor laws in Pennsylvania, which we covered on Status Coup. I did a short on that. Here's what they're doing out in Texas. Here's something that they just did. Let's pull up that tweet, Colin. We'll start there. So this guy, Tina, who is this guy? First of all, this
Yeah.
guy who tweeted this. Here, go up for a second, Colin, so we get Elijah.
Schaefer. Yeah,
Because you
he has
pointed
me
out that he has you blocked. So what did you do?
who knows?
Okay. Well, what's his? So I'm not familiar with this person. Are they like?
He's a uber right winger.
I mean, based on this tweet, it sounds like it. But okay. And he blocked
I don't know
you.
what exact. Yeah, I mean, I'm blocked by a lot of these guys though. They pre-block me. I'm blocked by Andy. No, I'm blocked by all these guys.
I've been pre-blocked before, and it's a weird feeling. It's like you're just, dude, you didn't even give me a chance to say my piece.
Right.
You just pre-blocked me. And it's actually been more so by liberals. And when I say liberals, I'm differentiating between liberals and leftists. You're
neoliberals.
Yeah, I've been blocked by like basically just like you aren't okay with Biden pre-block. Like I've noticed most of my pre-blocks, there's like a Biden Harris emoji going on. I'm like, well, I mean, you're not even going to hear my perspective, but okay, fair enough. It's Twitter. You can do what you want. But anyway, so McDonald's, let's go to that tweet. Let's watch the video here. And here's the, you asked for a $25 minimum wage. Here's what you got. Is there audio to this or no? I mean, it's cool if there's not. I'm just curious.
No, I don't think there is.
Okay. So this is America's first ever fully automated McDonald's.
That's kind of boring.
Yeah. So this is the first ever fully automated McDonald's. They have, I guess, there's got to be some employees somewhere, I think, but like they're automating the orders, they're automating the drive-through, and then it's just like coming out. They show you, yeah, there's a person right there. So Colin's pointing out a person.
Fewer people, yeah.
There's way fewer because I guess they're overseeing it.
Linking this to the minimum wage is absolutely absurd. They were going this route anyway, would have gone this route anyway, and obviously it's not a response to asking for an increase in the minimum wage. The minimum wage, yeah, see, Nina's right. It's $7.25 an hour in Texas, so that's clearly not related. So the
They were
response,
going to do this
the
anyway.
response to a $7.25 minimum wage was to automate, not a $25 one. So, but they would have done this anyway. This is the direction we are headed in. The capitalists want to get rid of any expense that they can because it increases their profits, right? And if that means they can 100% wipe out labor costs, they're going to do that. We've been headed in this direction. And if anything, Elijah's making the case right now for what the tech bros want, which is a UBI.
Well, that's what I think is interesting here. Whenever you see like an example of automation, I think it spawns a deeper discussion where this doesn't have to be a bad thing, but because of our societal norms, it is a bad thing. It could be, if we as a society, we're preparing for a world where, yeah, automation is going to give us an opportunity to where jobs are going to look a lot different and there's going to be less of them. And so a way to prepare to that. Well, how do you prepare for something like that? Well, you have a UBI and an efficient UBI program, not just like a total misguided UBI program. And it can be unrolled in a good way or a bad way, but you have an efficient UBI program and you have an efficient federal jobs guarantee. People make it out like they're competing ideas. They really don't have to be. I agree.
I agree with you. 100% agree with you. To me, the UBI is more of a tech tax. Couldn't get that out. I think of it in terms of like how folks in Alaska get a payment every year for the oil, right? Everybody in Alaska, it's universal. There's no means testing. They just get this payment, right? Think of it as the same way for the inroads that we made with tech, right? So it's just a same type of a principle, except now everybody's going to get a payout for those gains that they've made in technology. So, and I don't think that is in an argument against a jobs guarantee. I think what this paves the way for, if you're correct, if we do it properly and don't look at it in terms of the dismal late stage capitalism that we are in right now, but we look at more of an opportunity to create better jobs, not shitty jobs that people get excited about, not really low wages that you can't pay the bills on that you hate because they're terrible, right? Sort of think of it as like the division of labor, right? I think it's an opportunity for us to do something better, but who knows what that's going to look like? Because I doubt most Americans can kind of get behind whatever changes would be necessary to make that happen.
Well, I think that the American people would be happy to get behind that. I think it might be tough for a lot of people to wrap their head around such a thing, at least at first. But I think our society, at least I hope so, would welcome a situation where our work culture is less psychotic than it is now.
You would think, and I think you're right on that. I guess the problem is that we have this never-ending amounts of propaganda that corporations put out there to like make things seem a certain way or to feed these ideas that are really against the working class, but to make it seem like, well, if you're truly an American that loves freedom, you're going to get behind this. And it's okay if, the capitalists take ever increasing amounts of wealth. That's your duty as an American to love it because that's our system, So we'd have to do something about that kind of propaganda that's been spoon fed. And I think a really good example of looking at that would be universal health care. If you look at the rhetoric, 15, 20 years ago, it was all about socialized medicine and attaching the idea of having a universal health care program as being a socialist. And if you were socialist, you were into this, horribly anti-American, authoritarian space. None of this was accurate, right? But it was served up so often and so well that a lot of the American public bought it. They believed that, right? And it took a long time to convince minds that that wasn't the case. But now I'd say here in 2023, we're entering 2023, that a lot of people do see it differently. They don't look at it as this socialized boogeyman that it was, 15, 20 years ago.
Right. Well, but here's the interesting thing. When you think about like you're right, the capitalists will be like, oh no, we shouldn't have a UBI or a federal jobs guarantee. We're just going to automate things and then you're on your own and the profit margins are going to get better for the shareholders.
Right.
But what's interesting here is that's actually against their interests. I mean, so Travers just said this in the chat, and this is like a basic truth. Capitalism needs consumers. A society where like people have more free time and people have more, like they have some money in their pocket to spend, that's going to increase consumerism. So even from the standpoint of the capitalist, getting ready for a world with less jobs, like just literally less jobs, but also getting ready for to meet the challenges of the world. I mean, look, we could easily have a federal jobs guarantee because there's no reason why anyone who wants to work shouldn't be able to. We got folks, the
Right.
climate crisis is coming. All right. We're going to have plenty of stuff to do. There's going to be plenty of stuff to do, and we're going to need people for it. We can't automate everything.
Yeah.
So preparing for that world, not only is it the right thing to do morally, because it's pretty dope to survive as a freaking species, but also even from the capitalist perspective, it makes sense. Like it adds up even from their soulless perspective.
Yeah, no, so that is absolutely fundamentally true, right? Our economy is driven by consumption. Like 2/3 of our growth is based on consumption traditionally, right? That's how our model has been for a long time. That is the model of capitalism, right? So previously, you would have seen capitalists say, yeah, we want to pay enough of a wage where our consumer base has enough to spend on the widgets that we're producing because we want to sell widgets, and that in turn makes the growth happen, right? But so many things have affected that recently. Globalization is one of them. They look to other markets outside of the United States when wages kept getting suppressed here. They're like, it's fine. We don't have to worry about that. We have other runway in other markets. So even if we don't have Americans buying as many widgets as we used to, we have elsewhere to go. And as the wealthier got wealthier, they were spending ever increasing amounts. So that kind of took up some of the slack too. Another thing that helped alleviate that was credit, creating credit markets, right? Handing people more cash for what they didn't have and also charging them on the back end for that, right? Now we're entering a different phase. And I think another thing that's affecting it now is that a lot of these folks at the top, right, the really wealthy elites in this country, they're not worried, Ron, about people not spending money because they have stockpiled so much cash. These folks are so wealthy that if they stop selling widgets tomorrow and the entire thing tanks, they're fine. I mean, that is how dystopian our economy is at this point. It's very dangerous.
Totally. And so here we are, folks. They have the first ever fully automated McDonald's. This doesn't have to be a bad thing. But with the direction we're going, it's a really freaking bad thing. But it doesn't have to be. I mean, that's the most important theme whenever you see stories like this. Keep in mind, it's a choice. This could be an opportunity for a better tomorrow. And maybe at some point it will be. I sure as hell hope so.
Yeah.
But that's the future we're fighting for. We're fighting to kind of remake the narrative and to go in that direction. Right now, we're definitely not as a society. We're going the opposite way. But it doesn't have to be this way. I mean, we have the technology to really turn a tide for the better. And it really sucks we're not doing that. It really does. Should we move on to...
so
is Trump next? I think Trump
is next. So I don't know if folks have been paying attention to the news this week. The January 6th committee on Monday had what should be their final committee hearing, and they absolutely did recommend charges for Trump. I want to play a clip of some of that. Can we play that clip, Colin?
This is the starting point for our analysis today. The first criminal statute we invoke for referral, therefore, is Title 18, Section 1512C, which makes it unlawful for anyone to corruptly obstruct, influence, or impede any official proceeding of the United States government. We believe that the evidence described by my colleagues today and assembled throughout our hearings warrants a criminal referral of former President Donald J. Trump, John Eastman, and others for violations of this statute. The whole purpose and obvious effect of Trump's scheme were to obstruct, influence, and impede this official proceeding, the central moment for the lawful transfer of power in the United States. Second, we believe that there is more than sufficient evidence to refer former President Donald J. Trump, John Eastman, and others for violating Title 18, Section 371. This statute makes it a crime to conspire to defraud the United States. In other words, to make an agreement to impair, obstruct, or defeat the lawful functions of the United States government by deceitful or dishonest means. Former President Trump did not engage in a plan to defraud the United States acting alone. He entered into agreements, formal and informal, with several other individuals who assisted him with his criminal objectives. Our report describes in detail the actions of numerous co-conspirators who agreed with and participated in Trump's plan to impair, obstruct, and defeat the certification of President Biden's electoral victory.
So that's part one, and I've got a second video I'm going to play, but I wanted to point out the obstruction of official proceeding charges. That is a common charge we're seeing being handed down to almost all of the January 6th insurrectionists. So they're looking to charge or ask Trump be charged with that. And then the second one, conspiracy to defraud the United States, that's pretty serious. And I think it's on par. Remember, Trump had this whole plan about having fake electors, asking Mike Pence not to certify the election, have it get kicked back to the states, and have these fake electors come in and, decide that Trump would be the winner. The entire time we knew that he had not won the election. And I think at this point, we have enough evidence showing us that Trump also knew that that was the case, but that wasn't going to stop him from, stopping overturning of power. I want to play one more video and then we can talk about this.
Third, we make a referral based on Title 18, Section 1001, which makes it unlawful to knowingly and willfully make materially false statements to the federal government. The evidence clearly suggests that President Trump conspired with others to submit slates of fake electors to Congress and the National Archives. We believe that this evidence we set forth in our report is more than sufficient for a criminal referral of former President Donald J. Trump and others in connection with this offense. As before, we don't try to determine all of the participants in this conspiracy, many of whom refuse to answer our questions while under oath. We trust that the Department of Justice will be able to form a more complete picture through its own investigation. The fourth and final statute we invoke for referral is Title 18, Section 2383. The statute applies to anyone who incites, assists, or engages in insurrection against the United States of America, and anyone who gives aid or comfort to an insurrection. An insurrection is a rebellion against the authority of the United States. It is a grave federal offense anchored in the Constitution itself, which repeatedly opposes insurrections and domestic violence, and indeed uses participation in insurrection by office holders as automatic grounds for disqualification from ever holding public office again at the federal or state level. Anyone who incites others to engage in rebelling, assists them in doing so, or gives aid and comfort to those engaged in insurrection is guilty of a federal crime. The committee believes that more than sufficient evidence exists for a criminal referral of former President Trump for assisting or aiding and comforting those at the Capitol who engaged in a violent attack on the United States. The committee has developed significant evidence that President Trump intended to disrupt the peaceful transition of power under our Constitution. The President has an affirmative and primary constitutional duty to act to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Nothing could be a greater betrayal of this duty than to assist in insurrection against the constitutional order.
So those are some serious charges there, right? So I think that there is ample, I agree with Raskin, there's ample evidence to support these charges, in my opinion. We've seen the clear evidence that it wasn't just Trump and White House officials that were involved. There was communications with Mike Bannon, with Oath Keepers, Proud Boys, whatnot. So the question is what will the Department of Justice do? What are your thoughts, Ron?
Very little. I mean, honestly, like I can't. I mean, I try. Like I get it. It's. I mean, I don't disagree with your analysis. I just really don't see much coming from this. I know, like, the big difference this time is that he's really pissed off some really powerful people. Like he's pissed off the FBI, he's pissed off the CIA. But here's the deal: when he was in office, he was playing the fiddle they wanted him to play. He didn't buck them at all. If he did, well, the people who actually.
I think it could be argued he did buck the FBI. Certainly, different heads of the FBI.
He didn't the way other people do. He didn't the way other people did, because if he did, we probably wouldn't be having this conversation. Because people who really buck the FBI, they're people like JFK, who we talked about the last episode, and we know what happened to him. So I just don't. I still stand by. I think. Well, let me ask you this: do you think there's a chance he will not be running in 2024? Do you think that he will pay some kind of? You really do? I highly doubt it. I'd be fine if I end up being wrong, but just objectively looking at it.
What do you think Steve Bannon's opinion is on this?
I'm sure it's really stupid, but no, I know we have a Bannon clip. Should we play it now?
Should we play it?
After Monday, it's rolling. They're gonna indict him. There's no doubt about that. They're coming for him. Okay, and they're coming for him. They just put a bill in. 41 Democrats put a bill in to restrict him from running for president. They understand they can't beat him at the ballot box. They didn't beat him in 2020. He's not beatable at the ballot box. Not beatable at the ballot box. They have to do something else, and they're going to use this aspect, the DOJ in the federal judiciary, and this is blockbuster.
All right, sorry, Bannon, but he's beatable at the ballot box, obviously, because he lost the election. But carry on, Ron.
No, I was just going to point out that Scott Bannon looks like if Jabba the Hutt, wow, I called him Scott. Yeah,
I know, it's all right.
Steve Bannon. I wouldn't want to mess up his podcast handle, but yeah, no, he looks like if Jabba the Hutt and like chewing tobacco made it. Like he's just the most ridiculous human being. But here he goes, just repeating, "Stop the steal stuff." I mean, and that's what, I just don't. I mean, they have gone around so much in this whole thing. I mean, first they were looking into whether or not Trump incited violence, which is worth looking into, but a court of law needs to decide that. You can't just be like, "Here's a tweet, it's been decided." Well, no, you have to have a judicial process. That's how the law works, as it should. Then all of a sudden that kind of went away. And then it was his, just financial corruption, which he's an oligarch. There's plenty of financial corruption. And, a couple people have taken some falls here and there. Like they got fined, like someone from his organization had to pay something, whatever. Now it's kind of back to where we were before. And if they get if they get to push those charges further, well, what's going to happen next? There's going to be another kind of step, and before you know it, he's just going to be on the campaign trail again. And you know what? Part of this is maybe my own bias, because Tina, you know me, I ain't scared of Donald Trump. I'm scared of Ron. Well, not scared, but I'm more concerned about Ron DeSantis. I am more concerned about Ron DeSantis than Donald Trump 100 times out of 100, because he is a billion times more dangerous. Trump is just a narcissist, failed businessman who just said whatever he had to say for his own popularity, and he's completely incompetent. And if he were to get in the White House again, that would be terrible, and that would be a disaster, and it would be sickening. But he would also be completely incompetent. He would have people would be rotating out of that office the way a regular person changes their socks. And it wouldn't be near as dangerous as someone like a Ron DeSantis, a true competent fascist theocrat who would be able to get some stuff done like this country hasn't even seen before. So yeah, I have a hard time.
I agree with you that DeSantis is all of those things. I 100% co-sign on DeSantis being all those things. Agree. I guess my overarching issue at this point with the situation is that he needs to be held accountable for what happened, regardless of whether he runs for office or not. To me, this is more about he needs to be held accountable. Just because he was the ex-president doesn't mean that any of these things are okay. And in fact, in my opinion, it makes them that much worse. The fact that an ex-president, at the time president, could could engage in insurrection the way that he did, and it's really obvious that that is 100% what he was doing, is kind of scary. I mean, we can bitch and complain about all the problems we have with our democracy, and there are plenty of them, and all of that is justifiable. I agree with it, but
we don't have a democracy, Tina. I hate to burst that bubble for you, but it's better it happened before the new year.
We do have what's left of a democracy. I mean, we're set up as a democracy. My point is I want to increase that messy ass democracy. I want to see that
nice theater show. Yes,
and I don't think it's good to let this guy off the hook, especially.
Well, I never said it's not good. We don't just. I mean, I feel like at the end of the day, we're kind of having.
Are we having a poll here? We're having a poll.
Oh shit! Colin put in a poll. What's the poll?
I love that. All right. So, will Trump be able to run in 2024? So far, we have 71%. Yeah, because they agree with you. 71%. Yes.
Well, I didn't know that. I said I liked it before you told me that part. Now I like it more. I like it more now.
29% are saying no. So, remains to be seen, but I do think that the Department of Justice might come down with some indictments. I do.
You're just trying to get your numbers up. You're like 29. That's not even. You're like, people. No. Something's going to happen, you guys. There's the thing.
I'm going to pull it, Elon. That is, what did Elon say his poll was when it didn't work out to his favor? Do you remember?
If Tina loses this poll, she is stepping down from CEO of Instagram. No, I mean, look, I think honestly, at the end of the day, you're just saying ought, and I'm just saying is, and I think really we're probably both right, because it's like I don't disagree. Yeah, of course he shouldn't be able to get away with this stuff. Nobody should. But I also look at the world around, and like I'm just objectively recognizing that he has a different set of rules than most people.
Oh, I don't disagree with that.
He's an oligarch. And
I'm just thinking this time it might be different. I mean, I could be wrong, but I don't think they can ignore this. It's too big.
I worry when my friends say these things, Tina. That's all I'm saying. This time it's going to be different. I mean, there's a certain concerning element to that.
Too big to fail? I guess that's what's on the table.
I mean, it's been. I mean, look, we had the Russiagate show for 4 years. We had the 2 impeachment performances. Guy is still getting ready for runs for president.
We wasted time on that stuff. I agree. It was meaningless, but it was political theater. But this really is not political theater. This is really serious stuff. So
I want to believe you. We do live in a world where sometimes third time's the charm. That does happen. Will it happen here?
I just think
I can't say for sure no.
Because I think this stuff is way more serious than the other things were, right? The other things that he was accused of weren't on the scale, and they weren't certainly as supported as this particular situation is. I guess we'll see. I mean, it will take balls. I understand that for the Department of Justice to hand out indictments to the ex-sitting president. I totally get that. But I'm hoping.
Yes. See what I did there? I got it to the point where you started out like you sounded like a freaking attorney, and then by the end you were just like, look, I get it. It'll take balls. All right, Ron? I get it. I just grew on you like a fungus.
You 100% have. It's really hilarious. All right. I also want to talk about Cassidy Hutchinson for a second, because there were some bombshells that have come out in regards to her testimony and what happened behind closed doors with her. So there was a Trump world lawyer that was originally hired for her and then was replaced later on. It turns out now that this attorney was advising her to basically lie to the January 6th committee by just saying that she didn't remember things or didn't know about things. Well, that's not the case. She knew that she did. And so she decided to go with the truth and not perjure herself. But so Cassidy Hutchinson says Trump world lawyer told her to mislead January 6th panel. We're going to get you a really good job in Trump world, Hutchinson said. Stephen Pasantino told her. So former Donald Trump staffer Cassidy Hutchinson told the House January 6th Select Committee that allies of the former president told her to hide her full knowledge of the White House going-ons at the time of the 2021 Capitol riot, according to newly released interview transcripts. At the time, Hutchinson said people in Trump's orbit dangled jobs in front of her, jobs that were withdrawn as she continued cooperating with the committee. Hutchinson, who was an aide to former Chief of Staff Mark Meadows, sat for sworn interviews with the January 6th committee over 2 days in September, adding to previous testimony she'd given to the panel. Beginning with questions about her legal representation, Hutchinson explained she had not initially wanted to retain an attorney from Trump world, as she and others repeatedly called it, but that her financial situation had limited her options. At one point, she agreed to be represented by Stephen Passantino, a former Trump White House ethics lawyer. Here's the best part. This dude is an ethics attorney. Are you kidding me? She told the panel the understanding was that if she listened to him, she would be quote unquote taken care of. Passantino said, look, we want to get you in, get you out. We're going to downplay your role. You were a secretary. Everyone's on the same page about this. The less you remember, the better, Hutchinson told the committee. She later clarified she believed everyone referred to a group of attorneys helping Trump navigate his various legal entanglements. So I think that's, a bit of a bombshell to have the Trump ethics attorney telling her to basically lie on the stand.
Yeah, but when you hear things like Trump's orbit and all these other names, what is that code for? That's code for the blame's going to land on somebody else. That's right. Code for there's a lot of fall people. There's a big, it's like there's a big old thing, and it's not necessarily a domino. It's more like a freaking casing, and you got to knock down a bunch of dominoes, and then all of a sudden, do you break through the casing or not? Well, there's a good chance you're not going to if enough dominoes catch heat. And honestly, if they can just have enough fall people where they're like, well, this person's going to prison, and this person's paying a fine, and this person can't practice anymore, the United States of Amnesia will forget. Having heard all that, how you voting in that poll? What are the poll numbers looking like, Colin? Give us an update.
Yeah, we need an update on the poll. Did the poll go away? Where'd it go? Where'd the poll go? I don't see it anymore.
What's going on with the poll? If you pulled the poll,
I told him to pull it because
that's what I was thinking. Colin.
I put in the final results in the group chat there.
Oh man. Okay. You closed the gap a little bit. You closed the gap a little bit. But 64.
Your audio's wonky, Ron. Again.
Are you just saying that, or is it?
No, it's back again. It was a little wonky. I wasn't. I actually wasn't just saying that, although that would have been good. Wonky.
Can't hear you. What did you say the final results were? It's not coming in. No one can hear you announce these final results. What happened?
The CIA is involved in some capacity, I'm sure of it.
64-35. So if I end up being wrong on this one, I'm in, at least I'm in the majority. At least like the status, we're going down together.
You and the majority are going down together.
Fellow status couers, we're going down together. Smash the like button. Smash it. Smash it. Smash the like button for polls. And
wait, how did I not know we could do polls on here? This is awesome.
It's just one of the many tricks of Cat Ears Colin, man. It's one of the many things you can do.
All right. Should we talk about the fourth fixer-upper?
Yeah. Why don't we do a couple super chats?
Let's do some super chats.
Yeah. Take a little.
Let's read some comments too.
Yeah. Double K. Getting a little love for Colin here. First of all, Double K, thank you so much for all your support. I know you are a dedicated member of Status Coup, and we appreciate it so much. Love Colin. We all love Colin. Everybody loves Colin. Colin's one of those people that if you don't like that guy, you're the problem. Like there's something wrong with you.
I agree.
He's just such a bright guy, and he's just such like just a soothing presence. Yeah, he's like a really good sativa, but a person, and it's like that's great.
That's a good way to describe Colin.
Yeah. You don't like my music. I might like your music. Why are you saying that? I haven't even heard your music. I might dig it. UBI would be cheaper than our myriad of social services. I agree with you, but that is because what I would add to that though, it's because our social services are often like misappropriated and mismanaged. And I don't want the UBI to take away from that. I want the UBI in addition to that And I want that all to be run.
I agree. I think we should have both. I think people on food stamps should still have food stamps. I think UBI should be non-means tested, universal. Yes. Everybody gets it. That's it. And if you're wealthier, you end up paying taxes on the income. It's just, here's this thing. If you don't make something universal, it stumbles through appropriations. It's hard to keep it financed. It ends up getting destroyed at some point. The reason Social Security is still with us is simply because it is universal and it's not means tested, right? So the only way to keep a federal funded a program like this is to just keep it universal. I don't know why the Democratic Party is always sort of trying to means test things. They should stop doing that.
I know why, Tina. It's because they don't actually want to do nice things. That's what I think anyway. Teresa, what's up? Chinese economy is good because they have disposable income each month. Yeah. That's part of it. That's one of the many reasons they're doing so much better over there. Robert, what's up? Robert Pukere. Ron, punk Christmas songs have their lyrics on a different level. A Salvation Army Santa singing them would be hardcore. Yeah, absolutely. I'd
be into that. Where do you see that?
I don't know. My favorite guy? I can tell you my favorite Christmas albums is the Bad Religion Christmas album and the Jethro Tull Christmas album.
My God,
only one of those two is punk rock.
Bad Religion had one. That's taking me way back. I heard that in eons. Holy moly. I'm gonna have to look that one up. I probably have that on vinyl somewhere.
You might. I mean, I think they released it. It's been a little while. They released it in the early 2000s, I think. But yeah,
I think it's earlier than that, wasn't it?
The Christmas album?
Maybe I'm wrong. I thought it was earlier.
I don't think it was much earlier than that.
Okay.
I could be wrong, though. Fiona gets it. Fiona says, I'd be working to get DeSantis barred from running. Exactly. Here's the problem with that, though. Here's the problem with that.
He hasn't committed insurrection yet.
Well, the problem also is that, unfortunately, giggling about torture is a qualifier to be president instead of a not so good thing. So that's a shame. But if we were,
DeSantis is bad news. There's just bad. He's bad. Yeah. I agree.
Oh, this is funny. Travers says if he gets elected again, his NFTs might be worth money. Get him now, just in case. Get a collector card.
Oh my God, it's
funny.
Smells of wrong.
Oh wow! And Double K again. Thank you so much for your generosity. Place can't run without Colin. Amen to that. Very true. Very, very, very true.
True.
Right on. Let's go to people are shouting out some Jethro Tull tunes in the chat, which makes me very happy. Thank you all very much. Let's go to fake news.
Okay.
Because this is
fourth fixer-upper.
This is a doozy.
Do people know what the fourth estate is? They do, right? Fourth fixer-upper is the perfect way. This is a doozy. So ABC news producer, this is a wild story that's coming out of course, is coming out of Florida. But we're not only in Florida. It's just kind of funny that that's where we're at. So basically what's happening here is this woman that was a ABC news producer, freelance producer, also took a job with this company, Matrix LLC, that is a corporate lobbyist group. Matrix LLC basically does lobbying on behalf of utilities. In Florida, they also have Big Sugar as a client. So she was using her ABC news producer business card in order to dog political candidates, but not for stories that she was doing for ABC, but for things that she was doing for Matrix. And she was trying to ask them about fake things that never happened to make them look bad so that they could possibly lose their election, among other things. So this is original reporting coming out of NPR in a group called Floodlight. Floodlight is a group that funds climate change, newsroom reporting, trying to get stories out there that are accurate. So this was a cooperation with NPR and Floodlight. So television news producer Kirsten Henschel was doing precisely what journalists should do on a searing hot day in Stuart, Florida in July 2018. She confronted a politician with unwelcome questions. Microphone and ABC News business card in hand, Henschel rushed up to a candidate for the Florida House of Representatives before a debate. The candidate recalls and asked him about 20 dead gopher tortoises that were reportedly found at a nearby construction site. Florida designates this species as threatened. As far as the candidate, Toby Overdorf, knew, there were no real dead tortoises. And he should have known. Overdorf, an environmental engineer, served as the wildlife consultant to the construction project. Visibly flustered, Overdorf told Henschel on camera that he didn't know what she was talking about. Residents say they aren't buying it, Henschel declared in the new style video she later posted online. A city investigation found no dead tortoises. In fact, it found no evidence at all that any of the reptiles had ever been present. So sounds like she was just making up the situation to make him look bad, right?
Well, yeah. And she did it as, I mean, the other thing here is like this was an environmental effort they were doing. So this was like for an environmental project. So she's trying to kind of flip the script and be like, oh, well, this so-called environmental project is killing all these gopher tortoises, you know, which this is the anti-climate change lobby. This is like one of their tactics. Like they'll always be, I mean, I'm sure you guys have seen this meme like, oh, the windmills kill birds, which, hey, guess what? Do a couple birds get killed by windmills? Yeah, that does happen. You know what kills birds a lot more?
Airplanes.
Freaking fossil fuels. Well, yeah, airplanes too. But fossil fuels.
Cats.
Fossil fuels, drilling, that kills birds a lot more. So what we're currently doing kills a lot more birds than a freaking windmill would. But you still see that meme regurgitated. Yeah. Here's a situation where at least that meme, there's like a little nugget of truth, even though it's like a bullshit truth, but it is true. Like, okay, that does happen. In this case, it didn't even freaking happen. This project didn't even kill any. They made it up. They made it up, and she wasn't a reporter.
No, wait, it gets worse, right? Yeah. So that wasn't the only surprise. Though Henschel had done freelance work for ABC, she was not there for the network. At the time, a political consulting firm called Matrix LLC had paid Henschel at least $7,000, the firm's internal ledger show. And Matrix billed two major companies for Henschel's work, labeling the payments for Florida Crystals FPL. That's the sugar conglomerate. And FPL is shorthand for the giant utility Florida Power and Light. So obviously they had a vested interest in not having this guy win office. Both companies could have benefited from her efforts to undermine Overdorf and his promises to resolve environmental issues in the district he was vying to represent. Florida Power and Light has pushed back against efforts to bring solar panels to the Sunshine State, while runoff from the sugar industry is a major source of water pollution in Florida. Floodlight and NPR have not been able to independently verify whether Florida Power and Light or Florida Crystals knew about Henschel's video. Florida Power and Light declined to comment for the story, and Florida Crystals lawyer Joseph Clark says the company was not involved in any way, nor was anyone acting on its behalf in any negative attacks in any form, directly or indirectly. But this is why they hire lobbyists and communications firms, right? So that they can have plausible deniability.
Yeah, I don't believe them. I don't believe that they pay. It's like, why else would she do it? Like, she just went rogue.
Yeah, no, there's obviously a connection between the money she took from Matrix and the Matrix getting paid from these other firms. This is how they do these things, right? Overdorf still won his election. That's good news. A journalist's role in political dirty tricks. Interviews for the story Matrix Ledger show Henschel traded on her work for ABC News at least 3 times to trip up Florida politicians whose stances on environmental regulations cut against the interests of major Matrix clients. Internal Matrix financial records, originally sent anonymously to the Orlando Sentinel and shared with Floodlight, show that since 2016, the firm has paid Henschel at least $14,350. According to 2 people at ABC News with knowledge, Henschel was not, in fact, reporting for ABC on any of those subjects. If she was working on those stories, she was not authorized to cover them for ABC News, one of them said. All right. That's example 1. I've got 2 other examples. This is wild stuff, though, that this is happening. Also, I looked into Matrix LLC, and I noticed that they have Alabama Power as a client. And over the years, they have they've taken $2.5 million from Alabama Power, which is a very profitable private utility in Alabama, of all places. So this is obviously what this company is about. This is what they do. I'm sure we're going to hear more about this Matrix LLC in the future. But
Well, and you'll see people try to pull more stuff like this in the future. I mean, how messed up is it too? Like
very messed up.
that you find yourself. I mean, you should never be, and this is just like kind of like a thematic thing. You should never find yourself you should never find yourself rooting for a politician over a journalist. Like the fact that that happens is extremely messed up.
It's very
Even if it's a politician you like or that you like their policies, you should still want a journalist to highlight the goodness of their policies or to hold them account when they don't do the right thing. You should never be like, well, gee, this person is a straight up propagandist because they're making things up to try to sabotage an actual good thing. I mean, that's so like backwards, and that goes beyond. I mean, that is the complete opposite of what journalism is supposed to be. Because it's not journalism. It's literally just PR. And it's not even just like bullshit PR. It's straight up deceptive because you are making shit up. You're not even manipulating stuff at this point. You're just making it up.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. So their Common Dreams picked up on additional reporting on this after the NPR thing came out. And they basically are saying news sites took nearly $1 million from consultant pushing power companies' agenda. So $1 million was handed out by this Matrix company to news organizations. I mean, this is insane.
It shouldn't be legal.
No.
Like, this should be illegal.
And I'm going to name names. Let's name names because this is really shameful. So Yellowhammer News, which I've never heard of, Alabama Political Reporter, Alabama Today, The Capitalist, Florida Politics, and Sunshine State News at least took $900,000 collectively between 2013 and 2020.
Of course, The Capitalist is among them.
Yeah, right.
I've never even heard of The Capitalist, but I mean, I'm not surprised it exists.
It's spelled with an O, not an A. Capital-ist, like the capital-ist, but yeah.
Oh, I get it. Very clever. Yeah, but of course they're among. Wow. Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. Yeah, I mean, this shouldn't be I mean, here's the thing. You know, like I've looked into some of the media structures in other countries. In a lot of other countries, this wouldn't be legal. That's why when you look at like press freedom indexes that are worth a damn, not the ones that are like just like funded by like our military industrial complex, but like real ones, the United States barely ranks in the top 50. Like we are like crazy low, you know, and deservedly so.
I mean, U.S. Freedom of the Press Foundation, we're not anywhere near in the top 20, I think, at this point. We're way low.
No, we rank terribly, and we rank honestly right around the countries we wag our finger at. We rank in the places they do. We're right there alongside Russia. Like that's in fact, I think we rank below them. You know, I mean, we rank below like just a ton of places because like a media structure where you're at least getting you know, funding from the government or there's like accountability. I mean, we make it out like state media is some big boogeyman. With state media, there's at least some accountability. Now, when you have more authoritarians in charge, like that starts to become a problem, obviously. Right. But there's still more accountability compared to a freaking corporate giveaway. It's freaking nuts.
Yeah, it is freaking nuts. All right, so the next one I want to talk about is the Sean Hannity admits he never believed Sidney Powell's wacko claims. So this relates obviously back to the Trump election. This is the Daily Beast article. So Fox News star Sean Hannity has admitted under oath that he didn't believe the lies Sidney Powell was spouting in the aftermath of the 2020 election, including the ones he allowed her to say on his show. I did not believe it for 1 second, he said in his deposition for Dominion Voting Systems defamation case against Fox News, according to the New York Times. The admission is notable in that it indicates that Fox personalities such as Hannity and Tucker Carlson may have known that content surrounding the idea of a stolen election was false, yet allowed it to air repeatedly anyway. This revelation came out during a pretrial hearing on Wednesday, which also revealed that a Fox Corporation employee contacted the Trump White House, urging it to drop Powell over her false claims. Okay, so this is just another example. So your job as a journalist, if somebody's sitting in your newsroom and you're asking them questions and you know they're lying. You're supposed to hold them accountable for those lies. These guys chose not to do that, obviously, because they're part of the propaganda for the Trump campaign. So now they're facing possible civil litigation for that, and they don't want to lie under a deposition, obviously, perjure themselves in court in any way. So now they're basically saying, yeah, we knew it probably was false, but we let it happen anyway. So,
well, and that's the thing. They let it happen in the sense that they wasn't, if they were just engaging with the person and pushed back and had like a discussion, they wouldn't need to say, oh yeah, we didn't believe it. They could just say, watch the freaking newscast. Like, did you hear my follow-up questions? And did you hear my, not satisfaction with the answers? I mean, usually, when you're doing cable news, you usually have 25 seconds to have what should be like a 12-minute conversation about an issue. So you have to have a bite-sized thing. So eventually someone gets the last word. But if someone's pushing back on something,
Yeah.
So,
no, I mean, this is, again, so the state, it really bothers me, I guess, not only because I'm a journalist, but also because when people, have these conversations about fake news, there is an underlying truth to why that myth is being propagated. And it's because of things like this, these two stories we discussed. The state of the fourth estate is the fourth fixer-upper at this point. We have real problems here. And there doesn't seem to be any sort of ethical commitment to veracity at this point. And it's very detrimental to the public. I mean, because people need to know that the news that they're seeing or the information that they're being given by a trusted site, right, a trusted news source, is at least, has some sort of commitment to veracity or truth. And the fact that it doesn't is really...
Good luck. I mean, yeah, it's... And look, if we're being honest here, the Sean Hannitys of the world, the Tucker Carlsons of the world, they are just the crust on top of the turd. Like they are not, I mean, honestly, they're just, I mean, when you look at the entire fucking feces, it's a for-profit media system that, again, in other countries is not legal. Tons of the stuff we do would be straight up illegal. Because we used to have better protections. All that's gone. Right. But even just as small as having commercials on news, there's other countries that's not allowed because they're like, no, you can't have advertising on news because that might compromise what is delivered as news. News and information needs to be publicly funded and needs to be,
right.
That's a no-brainer. You're taught that in a freshman comm class. That's a no-brainer. Yet we have had the opposite of that for the longest time in this country. Yeah. We used to have, I would say, one of the better media structures out there, out of anywhere. We used to have everything was funded by the Postal Service, and this was back when all we had was newspapers. This is long before radio, TV, internet. But we used to have subsidized newspapers because the post office subsidized everything because they believed in the importance of news, of public service. And we just lost all that. I mean, Thomas Jefferson.
Ron, I have to point out the other thing that's happened is this stuff isn't frowned upon anymore by your peer group, right? So everybody's out to make more and more money, right? So a lot of these political pundits view themselves as part of an entertainment complex, not as, journalists that are gathering information for the public, right? So if you did this stuff 40 years ago, you'd be out of a job and you would be run out of the entire, industry with shame on your shoulders. But that's just not the case anymore.
Yeah. Well, this is a good time to let people know. Go to statuscoup.com/join.
Yes.
Because one of the things we do here is on the ground journalism. That's what happens here. Tina goes on the ground. Jordan goes on the ground. Status Lou goes on the ground. And we bring stories. John Farina. And then we take that firsthand footage and we bring stories to you that no one else is talking about. And we draw connections to other stories that are going very, very underreported, like digital rights and the rise in child labor and just labor issues in general that still go under the radar so often. So that's what we do here. And we kind of call it like we see it. And statuscoup.com/join. New year, new you with a Status Coup membership. So I want to make a couple, we'll do some more chats. I got a few announcements. So first of all, Can we go to the Time article real quick here, Colin? Because I do
this
have
is
to.
life expectancy. This is just
No. This is the Time article I just sent. This is about the L that I'm having to take.
What?
This is about. Well, here's the good news, folks. The good news is that Schumer. Well, we'll do bad news first. Schumer killed the antitrust bills, OMA and ACOA, which I've been talking about a lot. If you're not super familiar with that, please check out some of these the other videos. They are bills that would start reining in big tech. They would stop Amazon and Google from prioritizing their own goods and services over everyone else in search results. And they will stop Apple's monopolization of the App Store because they charge everyone else these high commission rates. Chuck Schumer took these bills out of the omnibus spending package, which is the must pass spending package. If they don't pass it, the government shuts down, which, they have one of those like every couple months. Like, oh, the government's going to shut down unless we, So our last ditch effort was to get it on the omnibus bill. It wasn't in the omnibus bill. So that's a big L. And that really, that just really sucks. I mean, I was part of this campaign for the better part of this year. But there's a little bit of good news. Scroll down a little bit, Colin. We got a little bit of good news. Keep scrolling. This is all still bad news. So here we go. As a consolation, so Schumer's like, look, my daughters work for big tech and I don't really give a shit, so I'm just going to screw everybody. But here's the crumbs that Chuck Schumer threw instead. An extra $85 million into the nation's 2 antitrust enforcement agencies, $50 million to the FTC, $35 million to the Department of Justice Antitrust Division. So, okay is a good reaction. Like it's like, all right, that's not zero, that's something. And you know what? That's still important because guess what? Yeah. We're going to have to fight another day with antitrust, and also we're going to another cool thing here is. There's a lot of stuff going on in antitrust outside of the digital space, too. One of the big ones being the merger between Kroger and Albertsons, which would make food prices go way the frick higher, y'all. Way higher. So if there's more going to antitrust, that's not a bad thing. Hopefully, the more is going to be actual enforcement and not just strongly worded letters. But here's hoping. But, we took that loss. Yeah. And I got, do you have the Airtable thing, Colin? Is that readily handy? Because I want to mention that real quick.
What is this?
So, guys, this is a creators network that I am helping to put together along with Fight for the Future. What we want to do is we want to assemble a bunch of content creators and kind of highlight how digital rights issues are often connected, no pun intended, to other issues going on in the news. So we're kind of going to deliver those updates to your inbox to hopefully encourage more people to cover these issues more often than a lot of people do now, because you don't see much coverage on this stuff. Obviously, you see some here on Status Coup. You see some on my show, Get Your News On with Ron, but it's a very underreported beat. And so I'm trying to change that. I'm trying to kind of build those bridges. So please, if you are a TikToker or Instagrammer, or even if you just have a Twitter account, I mean, it's not like, if you put any content out there and want to just have more of an ear to the ground on these issues, please do sign up. There is no obligation, but we're creating something really, really cool. I hope in the future, like-minded people get to collaborate, and this is sort of a nucleus for all that. So please, please, please sign up. This is my baby. This is my baby. So let's go. Let's go towards. Do we have anything else story wise, or are we just going to?
Yeah, we have the
Oh, we all die quicker. That's the last thing, right?
Yes, that's the last. We all die quicker.
Yeah, we're all dying faster now, folks. So have a good holiday. I mean, if you're thinking about eating that extra cookie, you might as well, because we all die sooner now. We're all just dying sooner. Our life expectancy is going down, but you know what's going up? Retirement age. So if you're an average American, you get to work to the bone until the age of 67 to enjoy. Yeah, you get about 8 years. Yeah, you just do it all for like maybe 8 years. Oh, and by the way, you're going to be like old, so you're not going to be as into traveling or anything. I mean, you might still do some of that, but not as much as you could in your younger years. So that's what they're offering. That's what the United States offers you as a citizen. Work to the bone until you're 67, and then die soon. U.S. life expectancy continued its steady, alarming decline in 2021 as COVID-19 and illegal drugs took the lives of hundreds of thousands of Americans, according to the final government data released on Thursday. Even as some peer nations began to bounce back, life expectancy, because of the pandemic, life expectancy in the U.S. dropped to 76.4 years at birth, down from 77, which, by the way, still isn't all that great.
No,
in 2020,
not compared to some other countries, it's low. Yeah.
Yeah, like it's really freaking low. And there's a number of reasons for this. One is, of course, our let it rip attitude about the pandemic. One is, drugs. One is no healthcare. That's a big one. That's probably
it's a huge one. Is no healthcare. Yeah.
No healthcare.
Poor diet due to not having money to buy, better foods, food deserts. There's so many contributing factors to this.
Fucked up food culture, a fucked up work culture. That's the other thing. It's like, dude, most countries, like they don't work this much. It's freaking insane. We get less vacation time, less maternity and paternity time, less like holiday time, less all quality time. Yeah. Like, it's ridiculous. And there's people out there that have been, and you saw, like, we bring rail workers on this show and other workers on this show. You see how grossly exploited they are. Shout out to Dennis, though, who did throw one of my favorite sentiments in here. I'm here for a good time, not a long time. I love that. I do love that sentiment, Dennis. I really do. I appreciate, but you know what? I want both. I want a good time and I want a long time. That's usually like for people that know they're doing things that might make it a short time. You know what I mean? like people who maybe enjoy their whiskey a little bit too much or harder things. And I get it. I get the sentiment, but I want a good time and a long time. And if I go out, and some chocolate. If I go out early, I want it to be something cool, Yeah. But yeah. So I hear you. But we're dying quicker, and other countries not near as much. But here we have shit food, a bullshit work culture. We have no public health measures. We have no health care.
Yeah.
It's a
so
wreck.
Many things.
It's a wreck. Go to work and be happy for the process, because you might get 8 years. You might get 8 years. 8 years to kind of do what you want. And
I'd love to see that data actually broken out by income level too.
Sure. Oh yeah. Yeah. No, if you're rich, if you're very rich, you can live great in the United States. But if you're not,
right.
And by the way, like, we're not talking, there's still people in this country who, like, they do still have decent jobs and stuff like that, and they make decent money. And I would argue their quality of life is still pretty shitty. Yeah. Because it's like, they do okay, but they work, constantly. And their life revolves around their job.
Right.
And it's like that's not a quality
Whereas
of life.
In other countries, there's like 30-hour work weeks. That's standard, that's just how it is. And there's 6 weeks paid vacation. There's countries in Europe where you get the entire month of August off.
Yeah. And like, also, it's even in the UK, which is like a little more, a little more stringent compared to other, well, they're not in the EU anymore, but compared to neighboring EU countries, which they are not a part of anymore since Brexit, but they're a little more Americanized, dare I put it that way. But not even there, it's like nowhere close. You see people out all the time because they actually get a real break, where they go and they freaking use their bodies. They freaking exercise. And you'll see they have a bag with them because usually they like shower to get dressed up for work again or whatever. You see a lot of times they don't start work until a little later because they expect people to go out at night. They're like, hey, you worked, you should like go out, or you should go to the gym, or you should have a nice dinner with your spouse, or whatever it is you're going to do. That's why, like, you'll see people out in music venues. I did like a bar show in London in the middle of the week, and it was freaking packed.
Yeah,
a show like that in most cities in the U.S. would be empty, or sparsely attended. Yeah. And it's like it's just such a different.
It's so different. It's so different.
Whenever I see my relatives in Italy.
Family leave when you have a baby. It's not just women; it's both men and women get in some countries a year off to take care of their baby. So we have really messed up priorities here.
Beyond. I mean, whenever I see my family in Italy, they honestly, like, some of my cousins, they're just like, dude, what are you doing? Why are you not? Why just come? Like, what are you? What is LA that freaking exciting? And they don't ask me that, but it's like that's what I ask myself when they're saying, when they're just like, what are you? Why? Just come here? Like, what are you doing? And I'm like, yeah. Sometimes I wonder that. I don't know. I mean. The weather's great in California. That is tough to beat. And I live in San Pedro, which is a neighborhood with good punk rock music, good food, and a beat. So it's like I gotta find somewhere else that checks all those boxes. So,
Right.
but anyway, so yeah, we're dying quicker, folks. Happy holidays.
Wow, what an ending.
So here, let's go to a few more chats. But before we get there, if y'all don't mind, I will let you know I'm gonna be on the road in 2023, which is like a week. That's like in a week. All right. So let's get ready.
Oh my
It's
God.
like almost a week. And I kick things off early too, folks. January 7th, I will be in San Diego, California, which is actually a free show, which is perfect for post New Year. So go to ronplacone.com, find information, and I'll see you in San Diego on January 7th. January 28th, that's a stand-up show and the premiere screening of my short film Loner. I worked really hard on this short film. I can't wait for the world to see it. And you can get a discount on those tickets. Use the promo code Lucy at checkout for a holiday discount. That's going to stop at the end of the year, so get your tickets now. Don't wait. And that's the promo code Lucy. February 10th, April 14th, and May 12th, I'm going to be doing a string of shows at the Glendale Room in Los Angeles, working on my 2023 hour. Yeah, Tina will be there. And
I said, come hang out with us.
Come hang out. In American Midwest and UK, I'll have some announcements for you soon once I solidify the rest of the year, which should be coming up in the next month or so. So, yeah. Should we do a few more chats before we go to the right-wing insanity? Fiona, it would help to get rid of the White House Correspondents' Dinner. Why? That's the only time there's a fun roast happening. I just think they need to make sure they only bring like good comedians in for that one. Like Stephen Colbert crushed it. Michelle Wolf.
I was just gonna say that Stephen Colbert had the damn funniest. Wasn't that the George W. Bush one? Is that what I'm having?
It was 06. I think the only one I think Michelle Wolf beat him though. Michelle Wolf was fucking hilarious.
Who was she roasting? I can't remember.
Trump. I mean, she was it wasn't Trump. She roasted everybody. Like, she roasted the Republicans, she roasted the Democrats, she roasted Trump, she roasted the media. She did the job the way it should be done, and she was freaking breathing fire. And she closed, as people were applauding, she closed by saying Flint still doesn't have clean water. She was awesome. And especially in a situation like that, where it's like, let's be honest, there's only so much you can get away with. She freaking crushed it. And she crushed it so hard, they didn't have comedians the following year.
Yeah.
I mean, that's when you know you crushed it. When you do so good, they don't have comedians again.
That's right.
Yeah, she's incredibly funny. But anyway, but it would help to get rid of politicians and journalists should not have din together. I do get that sentiment. I'm with you on that sentiment 110%.
I think that there's a problem with access issues, meaning that a lot of journalists are afraid to push something too hard because they might lose access to a candidate, might lose access to not just candidates, police department, whoever, plug in whatever their beat is. And it can pose a problem.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Julian Brown Princeman, how are you? Happy holidays. The media has appropriated compliance and normalcy of tyranny. We have no allies in government. MSM, big tech, big pharma. We have been played and their interests do not align with ours. I'm with you. I hear you. And Teresa, there's a commercial by a healthcare company saying the first person who will live to 150 has already been born. Yeah, I've seen that commercial and I'm like, what? That's like a speculation. Well, yeah, because I think what that's based off of is
a really rich guy having stem cells like injected into his spine every other day after the age of 75.
Yes, like they're projecting because there is like some research out there, and I don't know if it's all stem cell or if it's all, but like
I'm just making that up. I don't know.
No. But you're probably onto something though. But there's something out there that like they do project that, oh, this is going to completely change life expectancy. Really? Which, here in the United States, we're going to be really excited because if you live to be 150, you only have to work until 146. So we're really jazzed out here. But anyway, yeah, Teresa says, too bad his name is Bezos. The rest of us, life expectancy has decreased. Nadia, what's up? COVID death numbers are suppressed, just like unemployment and inflation. Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing too, and I hate to, I mean, I know sometimes
it's increasing everywhere, and the reason they're able to find out it's increasing is because they test the wastewater for the shedding of the virus. If they weren't doing that, we wouldn't know. But yeah, it's increasing.
Well, and also, you know, I feel like I've really been on the theme of like I've been highlighting shortcomings of the United States, and when I do that, I'm certainly not implying other places don't have their problems. But hey, I live here, so this is the loudest for me. But you know, when we hear things like all numbers are increasing, yes, that is absolutely true. But it's like we have to keep in mind our scale is nowhere close. What other countries deem unacceptable, not even from a numerical standpoint, because, yeah, we have a bigger population in most cases, but also just from like a scale. What they deem unacceptable and we deem unacceptable
are completely different.
Completely different. So when they say, well, numbers are rising everywhere, like, yeah, that's true because we're still going through this pandemic as one world, totally. But like we've got it turned up to freaking 12 here in the US. And we're just like not doing anything. We're doing nothing.
I mean, I was in the store the other day shopping, and I and like one other person were the only people that had masks on. I was really surprised.
Yeah, I'm usually the only person.
But I was thinking like folks just don't realize, or they don't know because they're not being told that it's increasing again. They probably think everything's fine.
I think a lot of people do. A lot of people think that, you know, until they get it or get it again. You know, and I think a lot of people, they're just kind of tapped out. They're just kind of tapped out.
Yeah.
And which honestly, I get, but I'm also just like, hey, you know what? Putting on a mask, is it fun?
Not that big of a deal, though.
Right. It's not fun. Yeah. But is it less fun than COVID?
Yes.
I would say like that's a small inconvenience.
Right.
And I'm not saying like wearing a mask is 100% perfect. Of course it isn't. But wearing a mask sure does help an awful freaking lot.
Yeah.
And it's a small inconvenience for, you know, like something that can help out a lot. Can you wear your mask constantly and still get it? Abso-freaking-lutely. Like this is a very powerful thing, and it spreads quick as a, you know, it's very potent, and it spreads and blah, blah, blah. You know, none of our tools are perfect, but all of our tools help. So, you know, let her rip is kind of a shitty strategy.
I agree. It's just stupid.
Ugh. Jeez. Yep. All right. All right. Well,
do we have any? Do we do all the chats?
Yeah, you got to do a little right-wing insanity preview here.
We are going to be talking about. My guest is Abner Hauge from Left Coast Right Wing Watch. He's been in Phoenix all week attending the TPUSA. That's Turning Point USA. The Charlie Kirk organization had their convention there in Phoenix this week. So he was there with a couple other reporters filming, and he's going to walk us through some of the speeches and some of the things that they saw on the convention floor and whatnot. He called us from his hotel room even. Yeah, I talked to him in his hotel room this morning. So it's funky hotel room lighting, but I'm glad that he was able to join us. He's a really great reporter.
So just in case people don't know, like Turning Point, that's like, they're like to the right of CPAC, right? Like they're like, or are they neck and neck? They're like super far right, right?
They're super far right. The difference in their mission statement, if you want to call it that, is that Turning Point USA is more focused on college, young Republicans, college-age kids. You know, a part of their bullshit is that colleges and universities are harming children in the sense that they're not educating them well, and that degrees are worthless, and it's all run by liberal lefties and blah, 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 you know, this kind of stuff. But they're very much committed to, you know, anti-trans positions. There were definitely some neo-Nazis there at the convention this week. Grayson Arnold was there. Ryan Sanchez, which he was a RAM guy, was there. So yeah, I mean, it's got a lot of the same crossover, the same players that you would see at America First Fest or CPAC or some of these other things that are happening.
All right, folks. Well, smash the like button. Thank you for joining us today. And let's give a quick thank you before we go over to Right Wing Insanity. Thank you, Double K. Thank you, Robert. And thank you, Double K, again for your super chat contributions. You help keep this show on the air. Tina and I will be back on Monday after the holiday. We'll hear about everyone's holiday week here. And yeah, happy holidays, y'all.
This week on Right Wing Insanity Report, I have a special guest that's calling in from on the road from Arizona. We've had him on the show before, Abner Hauge, who is the editor-in-chief for Left Coast Right Watch. You were just at the Turning Point USA America Fest, which is their annual conference that they have there in Phoenix. And I wanted you to come on the show and share with us a little bit of your experience and the things that you saw. So welcome, Abner.
Glad to be here.
All right, right off the top, you had some issues, I know, getting into the conference. I know Andy No had tweeted out this kind of ridiculous tweet that you were, trying to dox people. You're not a real legitimate, journalist, all this kind of stuff. So what was that like?
Yeah, so before I even got on the plane to Phoenix, I got an email from Turning Point that said that my invite to AmFest, which I paid for. Apparently, they call it an invite. Weird, right? But anyways, they said that my invite had been rescinded and that I can't go to the thing or something. It was weird. And I kind of just figured, well, I'm a very Googleable person, so they must have figured out who I am and they're not going to let me in, which kind of tracks.
Right.
They don't want
free speech for me, but not for thee.
Well, I mean, they don't want negative press and they're right-wingers and they don't have principles. They have principles, but they don't have, principles in the sense that you and I do.
Right.
I mean, they didn't want me in because I was just going to go in and make fun of them, which I managed to do anyways. Right. But I kind of had a backup plan from the beginning. We have a few people, myself and Haley from Arizona, Right Wing Watcher coordinating, and we had a few other people with us who were coordinating with. And our whole plan was to have a few people out on the floor and out watching the speeches and stuff and just, get a vibe check of how the conservative movement's doing. Trump announced he's running, DeSantis is probably going to run, and we're kind of wondering, is everybody over Trump? Do they still want him, in for the next presidential race, or is everybody just disillusioned and disenchanted and wants somebody else who's going to get their agenda across more effectively, which I think a lot of them think Ron DeSantis is that guy. So that was kind of the goal, and I think we kind of accomplished that. We got a temperature check, which the long and short of it is they're not sure themselves what they want. Yeah. I think they're all kind of hedging their bets, some people like Charlie, I think, are leaning a little bit towards DeSantis, but they're all hedging their bets. A bunch of them have these speeches where they're just ass kissing to Trump all the time, and then ass kissing to DeSantis a little bit. And but anyways, what I ended up doing was parking in a nearby Starbucks in a hotel lobby, and I just sat on the Starbucks Wi-Fi and watched these Turning Point kids go by, listen to their little conversations and stuff, and see people going, "Oh my God, Kelly Ward is going to speak. I'm so excited to see her," or "Oh my God, I'm going to get to see Tucker tonight, live," or whatever. And I did that for a few hours, and then while I'm getting fed pictures from the floor from a couple people, and just pretending I'm there, which I thought was pretty funny.
Yeah.
And obviously, I was going to come clean about this on Twitter, and I'm going to come clean in our podcast episode about this. But
But they're
the
probably
whole
wondering how you had all those photos in the meantime.
yeah, yeah. And I mean, we had people on the floor, so like, I mean, obviously, it's deceiving our own viewers a little bit, but I mean, the point is like some of these people will want to like. Some of these people want to like kick my ass, and I'd
Yeah.
rather just do a
Not
little
get your
bit of
ass kicked.
deception. Right? Yeah. I mean, I just want to do a little bit of deception to say like give myself some extra safety there, and I think people are fine with that. I think our listeners and viewers are fine with that.
Well,
But
I gotta say, Abner, I find it really kind of sad that these are the guys that are constantly going on about having free speech apply to private corporations, having them mirror, the U.S. law on that, and bitching about being banned, and here they are not letting you into their conference, which is just really hypocritical in my opinion.
I mean,
even if you're not going to say something that's not flattering, free speech protects that. They want that same, ability to say that about the leftists, right? To contradict them, criticize them, whatnot. So it almost feels like it's like we want free speech, but free speech free of consequence and criticism.
well, I mean, like there are people who want to like exterminate their enemies at the end of the day, and we're people who like, just. I mean,
I don't disagree with that.
Them.
Right.
Like if you're playing by they're playing by a different set of rules. Like, so they don't care about the hypocrisy.
No, you're not wrong. And I almost feel like at this point that they're willing to give up the entire concept of democracy to push through their policy principles. They're realizing at this point that they can't win that way. There's not enough people in the country that agree with the things that they believe in, especially the Christian fascists. And so now I see them like, monarchy, let's bring monarchy back. Let's install a dictator. And it's kind of wild because, 4 years ago, you would see them with these don't tread on me flags, going on about American civil liberty. It's just wild.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was useful to them. Like,
right.
Those aren't their principles. Their principles are like, their principles are the things they're actually pushing for. It's not the things in like our current society, the norms like, free speech and democracy that like we have.
Right.
That sometimes benefits them and sometimes inconveniences them. It's like their principles are we want to like have a boot on every woman's throat her whole life and like make them all chattel slaves to the men in their lives. We want everybody to get we don't want anybody to be anything other than straight and cis or whatever. We want, minorities to either be in their place and do the hard work for us and stay out of sight otherwise, or we want we just want to eliminate them. It's like those are their principles, like their principles, and of course you can't say that outright unless you prepare the ground for it, and they've been spending a lot of time preparing the ground for it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. Let's turn to some of the speeches that were made at America Fest this week. I want to play the opening video. This was right before, I guess, Charlie Kirk spoke. It's really bizarre. So let's go ahead and play that, and you can tell me what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah. Yeah, so they do these big productions every time. So one thing you got to remember is turning point events are ostensibly, the idea is they corral all of these like young Republicans in, and they give them a big light show along with the like talking points they're getting fed and the like ideologues they're supposed to be hyping up and following talking points from, and they make it this big spectacle so that they can recruit all of these kids, right? And that's kind of ostensibly the point, is to put all of these kids up in the front and for Charlie Kirk to tell his boomer and older donors, like, hey, we're getting all of these kids into these things that you guys want for the country. Aren't we doing such a good job? Give us money. And I mean, it works.
Yeah, obviously it works. I find a couple of themes there to be interesting. Obviously, there's American exceptionalism that's part of that. You know, we've never lost, we conquer, we whatnot. But also, and we're going to talk about this in a little bit more in depth, but I noticed the theme against the Chinese Communist Party, which is like a new boogeyman that they were trying to put up. Like, that was the opening part, right? So what's that about? Did you see a lot of that going on?
I saw some of that. I haven't looked into it a lot, but a lot of that's coming from Steve Bannon. He's had like years of doing these weird, bizarre, like anti-communist Party of China, like movies and stuff and propaganda films. And he had this new thing out on the floor called the like federal like federal something of China, like Federal Republic of China, like where their idea is like somehow they're going to, like, I don't know, I guess
you would think
China
they would be on board
or
with the
some
state-sponsored
shit.
capitalism. I mean, the Chinese Communist Party isn't exactly communist at this point, so I thought that was kind of bizarre.
Well, I mean, they don't care about that. They just don't like it. It's not a U.S. client state, so they don't like it.
Fair.
So, you know.
Fair. So Candace Owens, of course, she's been involved with Turning Point USA for a long time. And she, you know, I'm convinced at this point that she doesn't believe half of the things she says. She's just along for the financial ride. But she had some strange points. So let's play a couple of clips from her speech.
Is that they always take a grain of like truth about the they always take a little bit of a valid critique of like the liberal order and, like, you know, how that's working out and how it's not working out. Like, it is very true that a lot of people, like, colleges for the past, I don't know how many decades, 2 or 3 decades, have been hollowed out. They've been, like, suffering from administrative bloat. There's less permanent faculty. There's more adjunct faculty that just get thrown away.
Yeah, because the UC system's been defunded. I think that's a prime example of that.
Absolutely. And people people's degrees are worth less. They're not getting as good of an education as they should be, and that's producing a lot, and that is it's really a failure. But it's that way because of right-wing policies, and that's exactly what they want, so that they can say, oh, well, this isn't working, let's scrap all the public universities, let's just make college a thing only for elite people who can afford it again, and privatize it all. And that's what they want.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because Charlie Kirk never graduated from college, and here he is running this, right-wing group that's supposed to be herding right-wingers into college, right? But you're right. I don't think, obviously it's a lie about the IQs going down. Are there issues with the definancing of public colleges? Yes, we should refinance them. We should have less adjunct professors and more full-time professors. I agree with all of that. But clearly, at the end of the day, the Koch brothers don't want that. So it's...
Oh, of course not. Yeah, no, I mean, the entire thing is basically confirmation bias to further along undermining public institutions.
Right.
And that's, that's like old school right-wing stuff, right? They've been wanting to do this kind of thing forever, and they're way further along with it now. So what does that tell you?
Right.
And of course they get to pin all of their boogeymen to it. Is oh, the problem is that all of these kids are getting degrees in gender studies or whatever. I mean, a few of them are.
A few of them are, but it's hardly a ton of them. It's kind of silly that they made that.
It's really, I've been thinking about this a lot, and it's really cruel because college is a place where a young person can get hyper interested and devote their time studying hyper specific subjects that interest them. And that's fundamentally not a capitalist impulse.
Right.
But then, they rack up all of this student debt because of how things work now, and they get very passionate about okay, maybe you do want to go into a field like gender studies where most of the jobs are just highly competitive academic positions that a lot of the time don't pay very much.
Right. So,
that is one of the cruel realities that right-wingers just prey on.
Right.
Is there are a lot of fields where people get degrees that don't get them careers.
Right.
But on their own. So then you have to go to get a master's or a doctorate or whatever, and kind of pivot to other stuff. But anyways, they basically get to use their attacks on structural things like colleges to further their attacks on just the minority groups they want to target. They've been targeting ethnic studies for decades. They've been targeting gender studies for decades. And that's, okay, so here's, what does that tell you? Their bases of knowledge about minorities and women and queer people and all of this stuff, and that's oh, well, we don't need that. What they're basically saying is we don't need those people. Those people should be under our boot if they even exist at all.
Yeah, I don't disagree.
Yeah, and I mean that's basically what they're saying.
All right, I got one more clip from Candace that's a doozy as well. Let's play that.
Oh, you watch one Tim Pool video, even though most of the time you're just looking up songs you like? Well, here's nothing but Tim Pool and Steven Crowder and Jordan Peterson videos for your recommendation list.
Andrew Tate,
like,
whoever, yeah.
Until you retrain the algorithm for like a week.
Yep. And you go down a rabbit hole. Yeah, it's crazy. So anyway, I wanted to share that. I also wanted to play this speech that Dylan, who is somebody new for me. I was not aware of his existence until this conference. But let's go ahead and play that, and you can let me know your thoughts on that one.
Yeah, well,
Abner, I swear to, it's like wild that this is what they pick to do. And in the meantime, yes, you know what? Hateful thoughts, like hate speech, for example, do lead to real world violence, but they don't seem to have a problem with that at all.
Yeah, well, I mean, that speech was pretty chilling for me because, like, you know, you read between the lines of what he's saying, and it's, oh, well, isn't it cruel to mock them? Well, but they're all horrible people, so we should. So we should be cruel to these people. Like, that's basically what he's saying, is be cruel to these people. And, I mean, obviously he's citing things like detransitioners, people who they transition and like they do stuff to transition their gender at one point in their lives and then reverse it at another point in their lives, and which is like, I don't know, something like 1% of all trans people or something, or less. But it's become a huge thing for right wingers to grift off of these people. I mean, most, like, the overwhelming majority of trans people just like are better off because they've transitioned, like, mentally, physically. They're happier, healthier people, and it's, you know, an obvious fact. But, you know, if you don't want trans people to exist, you're going to handpick a few of these people and say that. I mean, if you're want everybody to hate trans people,
which is not the case.
Oh, there's men in women's prisons or something. Like,
yeah,
that's what it is. It's just dehumanized.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's just Nazi shit, right? Like, It's just textbook Nazi shit. Like, these are the first people the Nazis went after, and it's just happening now. I mean, this was the main thing at Turning Point, like, this year, was like, okay, the election didn't go well. Let's tell everybody to turn inward, like, repeat, get married, get married, get married, and say, fuck trans people. Like, let's just keep going after trans people, and join your local school board so that you can make sure that absolutely nothing in the curriculum humanizes trans people.
Yeah, it's frightful.
That's kind of where they're at, because
it is. I mean, the violence against trans individuals has increased. I mean, it's become the norm now to see these Proud Boys and neo-Nazis at, drag shows and whatnot. And they also act as if trans is some new thing that just happened in the last 5 years, when trans individuals have been part of the human species since the dawn of man. This is not anything new at all. What's new is that these individuals are just asking to be treated equally in society. That's it. And, and you're right. It was a big part of...
it's funny, like... I grew up in the 90s. Like, I was a toddler in the 90s, and, like, went through, like, up to preteen in the 90s. Like, I was an 89 baby, right? And when I was very little, like, my mom's from Pakistan. So, like, Pakistan's one of the first countries, or I think the first country in the modern world to like legally recognize a third gender. And so I grew up knowing about hijras who weren't women,
Right.
weren't men. And I was just like, oh, okay, some people just aren't either. And that didn't confuse me.
No, it didn't confuse me either.
So all of this is just,
I was gonna say, I knew somebody in my early
all of this is deliberate.
And acting as if they're satanic is even more gross. So, I don't know why all of a sudden in the last year this has become their new battle cry, but it really has in a way that I did not foretell seeing this happening, and it's really disturbing. All right, so I have another clip now from Michael Knowles continuing on this theme. Let's go ahead and play that.
We've decided that they're attacking us, so it's justified to attack them. And I mean, Nazis always did this, right? Like, they always framed everything they did as self-defense. Like, oh, we're, invading this part of Eastern Europe because it's, we're doing self-defense of, like, the Aryans there or something. We're kicking out all of these people because, like, we're defending ourselves against their tyranny over us. Like, yeah, that's basically what it always is. It's like you find a little out group. That's kind of the core definition of fascism, is like you elevate one group of people above everybody else, and you pick an out group and you say, this group is harming the nation, we need to attack it. And that's what they do.
Right. And what's happening is this is just a group that has been marginalized, and they're asking for equality. And in this country, we're supposed to want equality for all. So it's very unfortunate. Dennis Prager was there. Prager University is an absolute joke. I mean, the stuff that Dennis Prager puts out there is just some of the dumbest stuff around. I just have to be frank. It's like he wants to say black is white half the time. But I want to play this clip because it deals with the same sort of principles, and also, things like CRT. None of that's true. Mocking people for being different from, or joining with neo-Nazis to save the white race from white genocide. So that's just hogwash. I was really disturbed about the opening remarks, though, in regards to the Holocaust survivor in Germany. Number one, German is not a race. It's a nationality. Let's get clear on that, Dennis. German is not a race. And as far as dividing people by indecent and decent, clearly the Nazis were not decent people. I'm not saying that you're trying to say that they were, but the way you frame this conversation is really disturbing, in my opinion. What did you think about Dennis Prager's speech?
Oh, that was fantastic. Like, in a horrible way, obviously. Prager, for as much of a joke as he is and much of a buffoon as he is, he's been on the radio so long that he was one of the most captivating speakers that day. Like, one, because he wasn't just rambling and pinging back and forth between things. Like, he had an organized speech, and it was like, if you're a little Nazi youth, it's like a very compelling speech. It was like, in terms of media, like, design and analysis, it was good. The whole Viktor Frankl thing was really chilling to me because, it kind of shows the guy's id. Like, Prager's a German name.
Yeah.
Um, I think it was interesting because Prager went out of his way to say, "Oh, that's how the question was framed to him: is do you hate Germans?" I said, "Well, a bunch of Germans were Jews, and a bunch of Germans didn't like the Nazis, even if they weren't Jews."
Exactly.
And a bunch of Germans, like, helped hide Jewish people in their, like, attics and stuff.
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
I mean, it's an absurd framing because on its face, but like it's chosen because it's the only way he can kind of square the circle for his point, which is to say, like, oh, well, we don't care about all of these arbitrary distinctions. We only care about good versus evil, which, obviously they don't.
Yeah.
But if you think about it in like a more meta way, like, it's fascinating and disturbing because it's like saying, oh, we only care about good versus evil, like this Holocaust survivor does.
Yeah, which is woof.
But basically, he's using it to make the point that the Nazis did, which is we only care about degenerates versus like the virtuous people, right? Like Prager's equating like Frankel's definition of the, like, I don't know, what did he say, like the
decent.
The decent people and the undecent people with the Nazis, like degenerates and virtuous people, which is like, I mean it's kind of like the ultimate, like, it's a form of anti-Semitism, I think.
100% is,
when
yes.
you really think about it. Yeah, I mean, you're using this Holocaust survivor's words to justify hate,
your own hate, yeah,
hatred and persecution of trans people. It's disgusting.
It is. You know what, Abner? I think the problem is. Oh, sorry. At base, I think his definitions are what's problematic. The way he's viewing good versus evil is really a religious-based definition, right? Is what the Christian fascists have decided is evil and good, not necessarily what is anybody's secular idea of ethics or morality or equality or respect for other humans, right?
Yeah. And I mean, throughout the entire Sunday of the conference, every speaker had to basically endorse theocracy, like Christian theocracy in this country. They had to say, oh, well, our nation was founded on Christian values, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't. We have to bring the Bible into schools, stuff like that.
Oof. So disturbing.
I think one of them even said something about how great it is to be a Christian nationalist or whatever. And I mean, like, it's they don't really care about the Christian part, I think. They care about the fascism part. I mean, they care about the nationalism part.
Right. I agree. So this was wild. They had Libby Emmons, from the editor-in-chief for Post Millennial, which is Andy Ngo's outlet. Obviously, Libby Emmons engages in all kinds of misinformation, disinformation. She does it knowingly. I wouldn't consider the Post Millennial to be a news site. I think it's basically right-wing propaganda. But I do want to play a little bit of the speech that she gave.
and mentally, physically, they're happier, healthier people. First people humanizes trans people.
When
me.
No, it didn't confuse me either.
So all of this is just,
I was say I knew somebody in my early
all of this is deliberate.
And acting as if they're satanic is even more gross. So I don't know why all of a sudden in the last year this has become their new battle cry, but it really has, in a way that I did not foretell seeing this happening, and it's really disturbing. All right, so I have another clip now from Michael Knowles, continuing on this theme. Let's go ahead and play that.
If our society is going to do anything at all, we do not need to tolerate drag queen story hour. We don't. We do not need to tolerate leftists bullying and intimidating and doxing us. We do not need to tolerate the lies and the fraud constantly being peddled by the liberal establishment. We do not need to tolerate it, and we should not tolerate it. We should not. There is nothing hypocritical about encouraging good things and discouraging bad things. That is called common sense. That is called protecting our community. That is called politics, and it is long past time that conservatives started doing that again. Thank you very much.
So on this, I'm like, Michael, do you not realize that the left side feels that they're protecting their communities, that they're doing good things, right things? Again, he's trying to pretend as if this isn't subjective. Many people can see that their hatred towards trans individuals and homophobia is actually very detrimental and not something that is a good moral judgment, right?
I mean, that's basically it. This is an out group. We've decided that they're attacking us, so it's justified to attack them. And I mean, Nazis always did this, right? Like, they always framed everything they did as self-defense. Like, oh, we're, invading this part of Eastern Europe because it's we're doing self-defense of, like, the Aryans there or something. We're kicking out all of these people because, like, we're defending ourselves against their tyranny over us. Like, yeah, that's basically what it always is. It's like you find a little out group. That's kind of the core definition of fascism. Is like you elevate one group of people above everybody else, and you pick an out group and you say this group is harming the nation, we need to attack it. And that's what they do.
Right. And what's happening is this is just a group that has been marginalized, and they're asking for equality. And in this country, we're supposed to want equality for all. So it's very unfortunate. Dennis Prager was there. Prager University is an absolute joke. I mean, the stuff that Dennis Prager puts out there is just some of the dumbest stuff around. I just have to be frank. It's like he wants to say black is white half the time. But I want to play this clip because it deals with the same sort of principles, and also, things like CRT.
A Jew who went through the Holocaust, Viktor Frankl, lost his family. They were murdered. His beloved wife was murdered. And afterwards he was asked, he was a major psychoanalyst who wrote one of the most important works of the 20th century, Man's Search for Meaning. And he was asked after the Holocaust whether he hated the German race. That was the way the question was posed to him. His answer, I read when I was in high school. It shaped my life. He said, no, I don't hate the German race. There are only two races, the decent and the indecent. That is all you need to know, my friends. That is all you need to know. The left does not divide the world between the decent and the indecent. It divides the world between black and white, male and female, and rich and poor, race, gender, class, not morality. We divide the world between good and bad. There are good blacks and bad blacks. There are good lesbians and bad lesbians. There are good women and bad women. There are good men and bad men. There are good whites and bad whites. We don't give a damn about whether you're white. We don't give a damn whether you're black. We don't give a damn about your character.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so obviously none of that's true. They do care about whether you're gay, straight, black, white, whatever. They do care. They're the ones that are, mocking people for being different from, or, joining with neo-Nazis, to save the white race from white genocide. So that's just hogwash. I was really disturbed about the opening remarks, though, in regards to the Holocaust survivor in Germany. Number one, German is not a race. It's a nationality. Let's get clear on that, Dennis. German is not a race. And as far as dividing people by indecent and decent, clearly the Nazis were not decent people. I'm not saying that you're trying to say that they were, but the way you frame this conversation is really disturbing, in my opinion. What did you think about Dennis Prager's speech?
Oh, that was fantastic. Like, in a horrible way, obviously. Prager, for as much of a joke as he is and much of a buffoon as he is, he's been on the radio so long that he was one of the most captivating speakers that day. Like, one, because he wasn't just rambling and pinging back and forth between things. Like, he had an organized speech, and it was like, if you're a little Nazi youth, it's like a very compelling speech. It was like, in terms of media, like, design and analysis, it was good. The whole Viktor Frankl thing was really chilling to me because, it kind of shows the guy's id. Like, Prager's a German name.
Yeah.
I think it was interesting because Prager went out of his way to say, oh, that's how the question was framed to him, is, do you hate Germans? I said, well, a bunch of Germans were Jews, and a bunch of Germans didn't like the Nazis, even if they weren't Jews. Exactly. And a bunch of Germans, helped hide Jewish people in their, attics and stuff.
Yeah.
It's an absurd framing because on its face, but it's chosen because it's the only way he can kind of square the circle for his point, which is to say, oh, well, we don't care about all of these arbitrary distinctions. We only care about good versus evil, which, obviously they don't.
Yeah.
But if you think about it in a more meta way, it's fascinating and disturbing because it's like saying, oh, we only care about good versus evil like this Holocaust survivor does.
Which is woof.
But basically he's using it to make the point that the Nazis did, which is we only care about degenerates versus the virtuous people, right? Prager's equating Frankl's definition of the I don't know, what did he say, the
decent.
The decent people and the undecent people with the Nazis degenerates and virtuous people, which is it's kind of the ultimate it's a form of anti-Semitism, I think.
100% it is.
When
yes.
you really think about it. Yeah, I mean, you're using this Holocaust survivor's words to justify hate,
Your own hate, yeah.
hatred and persecution of trans people. It's really disgusting.
It is. You know what, Abner, I think the problem is... Oh, sorry. At base, I think his definitions are what's problematic. The way he's viewing good versus evil is really a religious-based definition, right? Is what the Christian fascists have decided is evil and good, not necessarily what is anybody's secular idea of ethics or morality or equality or respect for other humans, right?
Yeah. And I mean, throughout the entire Sunday of the conference, every speaker had to basically endorse theocracy, like Christian theocracy in this country. They had to say, oh, well, our nation was founded on Christian values, blah, blah, blah. It wasn't. We have to bring the Bible into schools, stuff like that.
Oof. So disturbing.
I think one of them even said something about how great it is to be a Christian nationalist or whatever. And I mean, like, it's they don't really care about the Christian part, I think. They care about the fascism part. I mean, they care about the nationalism part.
Right. I agree. So this was wild. They had Libby Emmons, from the editor-in-chief for Post Millennial, which is Andy Ngo's outlet. Obviously, Libby Emmons engages in all kinds of misinformation, disinformation. She does it knowingly. I wouldn't consider the Post Millennial to be a news site. I think it's basically right-wing propaganda. But I do want to play a little bit of the speech that she gave.
And it's important that we question the medical industry and demand accountability from them.
I mean, because they've never lied to us before.
Right, they've clearly never lied to us before. But in terms of starting kids younger and younger down what they call the gender journey, which, I mean, that's such garbage. We've seen that over and over. These hospitals put out promotional videos for their gender clinics, like Boston Children's Hospital, that put out a video that said kids know their gender identity pretty much from birth. We know that's a lie. We all know that that's just ridiculous. No kid comes out of the womb and says, oh, I feel my body. You must be misaligned with my mind. That's not a real thing. And then when we show them, hey, these are your words.
It is a real thing.
Do you really mean that children are born in the wrong bodies? They call us hateful. They call us names. And those names are lies as well. And the thing, too, is we can't compromise on this anymore. When they call you names, who cares? The truth is the truth, and there's nothing for it. It's just the truth. Reality is reality, and we know what it is.
But you don't, Libby, you don't know what it is. I have so many problems with what she's saying here, because she is the ultimate gaslighting, right? So actually science says the opposite. You can be sexed with the opposite hormone in vitro, and at puberty, you can be born with various degrees of both sex organs. So to say that a baby comes out of the womb and does not know that that's happening is ridiculous. Of course they do. And so at this point, they're just trying to marginalize a group of individuals, you know, that have very real biological reasons for the way that they feel. And anybody that wants to, you know, read up on that, Dean Hamer's done some great studies on this. I digress, but I'm really disturbed by her speech, because she says, you know, she comes out as the editor-in-chief of a publication, a news publication, and her words have clout in this community, and it's just really the ultimate gaslighting, Abner.
Yeah, well, I think one thing we have to recognize is that the attack on trans people and trans children especially is even more than it's just about attacking their very static ideas about gender. It's about their ideas about children. And the hardcore right-wing idea about children is kind of the old school idea about, you know, your children are your property. Like, if they, you know, if they're born on your farm, they're obligated to work on your farm. You know, childhood is actually a very new concept. A lot of history, at least in Western history, like children were just kind of, you know, they popped out, like they have to develop for a while, but they're kind of just expected to start pitching in and doing some of the work on, you know, their parents' farms or whatever as soon as they were able to. And the idea, and yeah, I mean, if you look at how marriage is structured, there's even modern marriage rituals is like, you know, the father gives the bride away to the husband, because literally back in the day, like, your daughter was thought of as your property. And that's kind of what they want to bring back, is basically this idea that your children don't have their own agency, they're not supposed to, and you're supposed to have dominion over them until they're old enough to not stand it anymore, or, like, you know, go off and, you know, produce their own families or whatever.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. All right, let's move to the conference floor. I want to show some of the photos and videos from the conference floor. Let's play that first clip that I have, Colin. So this is the media area. You weren't given your press badge, but I'm noticing that One America News was there. That new super right-wing anti-communist Chinese Communist Party was there. Like, all the usual right-wing streaming suspects were there. What did you notice in that area?
There was a new one, I think it's like basically a Spanish language version of like One America News Network or something.
Oh, really?
It's called Americano, and I think it's a Steve Bannon-tied project. Like, their promo video had Bannon saying "Soy Americano." It was kind of laughable, actually, but yeah, I guess they want to, you know, expand their reach however they can, and they're clever about it.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I think that's what a lot of this anti-CCP stuff is based on. You know, when I interviewed Andy Campbell about the Proud Boys, his book, one of the things he pointed out to me was a big chunk of the donations that were going to the defense of the Proud Boys was coming from Chinese Americans, which I thought was really wild. So I think it's effective, and I think you're right. Also, I want to throw up some of these photos that AZ Right Wing Watch had taken. So take down the Chinese Communist Party is one. The next one is this Winnie the Pooh thing, which is kind of strange. America's rule of law must never be up for sale, except that it is, right? I mean, these guys don't want to recognize that. They want to say that Chinese Communist Party is buying our government, when in reality, it's American corporations that are doing that. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, like, the weird thing about it is like, okay, so I don't really understand how kind of like what the industrial economic situation in China is that well myself, but from what I understand is like there's a lot of US corporations that just make their goods in China, and they kind of have like their own little private command economies that just like happen. Okay, the CCP gets its cut and it gets its fingers in whatever factory you make over there. But okay, you're like Chanel or you're like Nike or something. You go make your products there, you ship them back to the U.S., and it's like just become part of American industry.
Yeah,
and
it's state-sponsored capitalism, really.
Yeah, I mean it's hollow. It's China's just like I mean, of course they're a brutal authoritarian state, like a lot of states are, including the United States at times.
Right.
But like, you know, it's always like being used selectively and cynically
Right.
by somebody who wants to, like, you know, have their own wedge issue in it.
Right.
And I don't really understand what Steve Bannon's wedge in China issue in China is. I don't really understand what he's doing. Maybe he wants like a more fascist, like a China that's a more like interested in allying with his kind of fascists. But like, I don't know.
I don't know
like,
either. I thought it was kind of weird.
It's very weird. But I'm sure that, like, once people do the digging, it'll make more sense.
Right. I mean, and even when you went on Twitter and you went to the America Fest hashtag over the weekend, it was mainly accounts that were related to this anti-CCP stuff, like the entire threads of it. Like, it was really weird how that was being astroturfed. So something that I have noticed was not this year that I'm not seeing so predominantly in the past. A lot of religious stuff, a lot of anti-choice, anti-abortion things. I want to throw up some of these photos. So, you know, here you have, I am the pro-life generation. They're obviously celebrating the overturning of Roe v. Wade. Your soul matters. I love this one that says brainwashed, the devil something, I can't make it out, but brainwashed. I mean, I would say a lot of these people that are in these extreme religious groups are brainwashed, right? From the outside looking in, it seems that way to me. Then, you know, there's this one, which I thought was funny with the t-shirts. It's like a take on the Brandon thing, except now we're replacing that with Jesus. Reborn lives matter. I guess that's a throwback to being a born again Christian. So did you feel like religion was, you know, Christian fascism in general, was it one of the biggest issues that was happening there this weekend?
Huge. And I think that ebbs and flows with how well they do, because I think a lot of them don't really even like going to church and doing the whole prostration in front of religion thing that much. A lot of them don't. But there's a huge base of evangelicals that keep the Republican Party running. And they really like retreat back into making more inroads into the evangelical community whenever they don't do well, I think. And this year, like, they got the house. I think they got the House, or I'm sorry, I'm blanking. Like, did they barely lose the House and barely get the Senate, or was it the other way around?
The Senate's still in Democratic control with the two independents. The House is in.
Right.
They did not win as many.
Yeah,
barely. They expected to do a lot better, right? This was supposed to be this giant red wave. Yeah, there was no red wave as they had predicted. So, and in Arizona, they took a shellacking, obviously.
So Trumpism, especially more than the Republicans themselves, took a huge hit. So they're kind of retreating into this, like, because they don't want to talk about what their plan is for the next electoral cycle. They don't want to worry about that right now. They're retreating into, oh, well, we got Roe versus Wade repealed. They're spent a lot of time during the speeches and on the propaganda on the floor saying, oh, well, what you need to do is start praying more and going to church more and, like, turning inward and bettering yourself. And I mean, that's always the refrain when they don't do well, is turn inwards. And this isn't just like a right-wing thing. This is kind of like whenever you have like a group of people who expect some big thing to happen and it doesn't happen, like you see this a lot with cults, right? Is okay, so like the New Age movement, the 90s turned out to not be a very good New Age. Like economically, a lot of people weren't doing so hot. Like the age of Aquarius didn't come to pass. All of these like wonderful things that the New Agers thought would happen didn't really come to pass. Basically, Charlie Kirk and a bunch of these other people were trying to set this tone the whole weekend, saying, I don't want to, we shouldn't talk about or worry about the next electoral cycle. We shouldn't worry about getting Trump back or any of this stuff back. And when somebody asked Tucker Carlson, are you going to support Trump or DeSantis? He was like, I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do. I can't predict the future. And kind of tried to wash his hands of it. And instead, all they really wanted to do was turn inward, right? Like they really just want to have everybody focus on local school board races and building their base and doing the tried and true grassroots stuff that they know works and getting people more fanatically devoted to the like core tenets and hope that carries them through until they have something that they can rally around.
Right.
And that's
which
kind of what
apparently
always happens. Like,
yeah, which apparently is going to be the Chinese Communist Party. I want to play really quickly. I want to end the show with this. This is a propaganda video from this this new group that was there. I want to play it because it's kind of wild.
Save America, take down the CCP.
Yeah, it's kind of weird, right? It's kind of weird because that's what they're saying. Save America, this like as if the Chinese Communist Party is coming for America. I thought it was really strange. And then I want to play
some.
Oh, okay.
Sure.
Well,
I noticed during some of the speeches there was these talking points where they were like, oh, well, there's a bunch of students coming from China to the U.S. and they're being forced to spy on all of us. So I guess there is this kind of xenophobic paranoia thing about Chinese college students, which has been on and off for years. I think it got worse during COVID, but I don't know where they're going with this, to be honest.
Yeah, it's weird. I don't either. I want to play a second video of people chanting about this that was taken in the aisles there. Take down the CCP. Take down the CCP. It's...
Take down the CCP. 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 Take down the CCP.
I mean, it's really obviously there's some astroturfing going on here.
I mean, the whole event's an AstroTurf event. What do you expect?
I don't know, Abner. I just feel like all of a sudden this... I mean, we used to see the anti-CCP things at Trump rallies. Like there would be small contingents of it. So that's nothing new. But to have it completely expanded into this... Yeah. Okay, yeah. I mean, this is new stuff. All right. I know you got to get going. You've spent an hour with us, and I do appreciate your time, Abner, and going through some of this stuff and sharing your reporting with us. If folks want to follow you, where's the best place for them to do that?
At LCRW at newsy.social on Mastodon. If our Twitter's still up, it's at LCRW News. Our Patreon is patreon.com/LCRW. And our reporting is all on leftcoastrightwatch.org.